Hello and welcome to Dining with Death. This episode is on our playlist, Deadly Destinations. I'm coming to you today from Tonopah, Nevada, the site of one of America's worst mining disasters to ever occur. I'm going to take you for a little tour of the town, which includes the infamous Clown Motel. So those of you that are into horror like I am, you're already familiar with this little hotel. We're going to look at the cemetery and we're going to talk a little bit about the food in town. Thanks for joining me today in Tonopah. I'm Stacy Lee. Let's begin. Tonopah, Nevada is a very small town that sits about halfway between Las Vegas and Reno. There are about 2,500 people there, and most of them work in the service industry. There's a small hotel with a casino in the middle of town that kind of conjures Wild West imagery called the Mizpah Hotel. Tonopah is home to the Mizpah Mine. In 1900, prospector Jim Butler found a rock in Tonopah Springs that he thought looked different from the rest. He showed it to his friend, Tasker Oddie, that is probably the best name ever, who had a chemistry teacher friend look at it, and they determined that it was silver. Butler and others started leasing mining claims by the foot, guaranteeing the lessor 75% of all profits, which brought wealth to all parties involved. Wyatt Earp and other infamous Wild West figures are said to have spent quite a bit of time in Tonopah, and that single rock led to the discovery of the second largest silver strike in Nevada history. A 1,200-foot shaft was dug and topped with a wooden head frame. The mine was in operation from 1902 to 1948 and is one of 3 complete hoisting works on the property. It is now a historic mining park, which is maintained in a state of arrested decay, according to the website. The operators want visitors to step back in time when they visit. And of course, wherever there are mines, there must be food and lodging for those working in them. The Mizpah Hotel was built in 1905 and was the tallest building in Nevada until 1927. Boy, that is really hard to imagine with Vegas being what it is today. The hotel is said to house a ghost that they call the Lady in Red. The legend says she is the ghost of a prostitute who was beaten and murdered on the 5th floor of the hotel by a jealous ex-boyfriend. Other stories say she was killed by an enraged husband who caught her with another man after he missed his train and returned to the hotel. As if that weren't enough, tiny little Tonopah has another infamous hotel called the Clown Motel. Those of you who love horror stories and horror movies and horror TV shows like I do are already aware of this little motel. Deemed the scariest motel in America, it shares a border with the Tonopah Cemetery. The motel was opened in 1985 by Leona and Leroy David, who are the children of Clarence David. Clarence died in the Belmont fire of 1942, and he is buried here in the Tonopah Cemetery. Clarence loved clowns and had a clown collection of his own. So when his kids opened the motel, they displayed their dad's 150-piece clown collection, and it was an instant hit. The rest is creepy clown history. The motel is a typical roadside motel in structure, but definitely not in theme or decor. Each room has a hand-painted clown on it, and even the interiors of the rooms are clown-themed. It is painted in bright colors and patterns, and even the clientele we saw there were a little bit interesting. The lobby is its main attraction. As you can see, it is absolutely stuffed with clowns of every shape and size, every color and character, from happy and childlike to terrifying. People from all over the world send clowns to the Clown Motel to be part of the collection, which now totals over 2,000 clowns. The folks there are happy to let you walk around and take photos. There is a lot to see, and they have definitely put a lot of time and effort into the spooky and over-the-top theme of this property. You can buy clown-themed merchandise, and we made sure to pick up a few t-shirts while we were there. The motel has been featured on Ghost Adventures. You know that show where the kind of muscly guys yell at the ghosts? And the cameramen captured a dark silhouette and a recording of a voice saying, "Hello, it turned on," while using a voice spirit box. But even more disturbing than that, the hand of a large clown is caught on camera moving off its leg by itself. It has been featured in a comic book and a short film by Joseph Kelly called Clown Motel, the film. I will put a link to the trailer of the film in the description for those of you that might be interested. But the event that brings us here today for this episode of Deadly Destinations is the Belmont mine fire. On February 23, 1911, 17 men lost their lives when the mine shaft they were working in caught on fire. The Belmont mine had 2 shafts, the Belmont, and the Desert Queen. Smoke was first noted by the cager around 5:50 a.m. It took over an hour to discover the fire on an intermediate level, which was burning mine timber that had been piled up. It is believed that the fire was started by a lighted candle. The men began to build a brattice, which is a partition that is made of cloth or wood, to try and stop the fire from spreading. I just have to stop right here for a second. I am claustrophobic, and when I say claustrophobic, I don't mean I don't like small spaces. I mean I haven't been on an elevator in almost 20 years. I'm just picturing these miners trapped down in these dark caverns, and then all of a sudden it's on fire. I cannot imagine how horrible that would be. I would probably just pass out and die right there on the ground. So orders are sent out that everyone is to evacuate the mine except those fighting the fire. The men were scattered and I'm sure scared and did not obey orders very promptly, so when this disaster occurred, there were more men still in the mine than should have been. To this day, it is not completely clear what happened, but it is believed that a reversal of air currents kind of created a backdraft type situation and forced smoke into parts of the mine that the miners previously believed to be safe. The smoke rapidly made its way through the various tunnels of the mine, trapping and killing all of the men in them. Later, bodies were found in crawling positions, and 4 men even fell off the cage while it was being hoisted after they were overcome with smoke. Miners worked through the night to put out the fire, and the bodies of their 17 co-workers were recovered the next day. And now, as if 2 haunted motels and a terrifying mining disaster weren't enough, Tonopah is a deadly destination due to what was called the Tonopah Plague. I did a lot of research on this, and the articles are quite fascinating. Just the different speech patterns and words that were used in that time are interesting to me. But in 1905, early 1906, men, and only men, began falling severely ill and many died. I found post-mortem exams that read like this, quote, "The entire costal and visceral pleura involved are covered with a thick greenish-yellow fibrinous exudate, 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch in thickness. The lung is pushed up to the chest wall, literally buried in exudate." Am I saying that right? "The middle and upper lobes are collapsed and compressed. The lower lobe is hepatized, showing focus of infection here in a solidified, pus-exuding 3-inch diameter area. The face bears an anxious expression, and the eyes and mouth are wide open." Wow, so an awful way to die, it sounds like. It turned out that the Tonopah Plague was pleural pneumonia, showing up in an extreme form in miners who worked in dark, damp, and dirty conditions. Many, many miners died and are buried here in the Tonopah Cemetery. I know some of you may find this strange, but I absolutely love cemeteries. And for me, it was a real treat to walk around this cute little well-maintained cemetery that has so much history and so much tragedy associated with it. I think it's actually quite beautiful. This is the grave of William F. Big Bill Murphy. When he showed up for work on the morning of the fire, about 90 men were still trapped in the mine. Big Bill volunteered without hesitation to go down into the elevator and load them up. He was the only one brave enough for the job. Down he went, and before long the operator heard the bell ring to bring up the cage. Big Bill and a cage full of men unloaded onto the surface, but there were still more. So Big Bill went back down, rang the bell again, and again another cage of rescued miners emptied out. By this time, Big Bill had been in the smoke for a long time and was feeling the effects of it, but he couldn't leave anyone to die. So he went down for a third time. This time the bell rung and the cage came up, but Big Bill wasn't on it. He had succumbed to the smoke and had fallen off the cage during the hoist. His final words were, "Well, boys, I've made 2 trips and I'm nearly all in, but I'll try again." As you can see here, his tombstone reads, "Died while saving others." There is also a monument to him outside of the post office in Tonopah that recounts his heroic deeds. Not all of the people buried here in the Tonopah Cemetery are miners. This one is a woman from Iowa, and it says she was poisoned. This is a 28-year-old woman who committed suicide in 1906. This is a sad tombstone. It's a 21-year-old man. It says his name and then it reads, "Life became a burden." But the vast majority of these headstones read, "Died of pneumonia," which would be during the plague, or "Died in the Belmont fire." There's something quite sombering about this place, this dusty little patch of earth that is the resting place for so many people that died in such tragic circumstances. I can definitely see why so many believe that these little mining towns and ghost towns of the West are haunted. The mine obviously does not have a restaurant, and so we asked the clerk at the Clown Motel where he sends guests to eat, and this is where he sent us. Marquis Restaurant right across the street from the motel on Main. They were very nice and told us that we could eat inside, but as we are still in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, which is spiking in this area right now, and because I am high risk, we only eat outdoors in public. We looked for a park but couldn't find one, so excuse us while we eat in our car. Well, it is still the middle of COVID, so we are eating in the car. They were really nice at the Mexican restaurant and told us we could eat there, but I do have lupus, and so we have to be extra careful. So we're going to tell you what this food is like, but it's coming to you from the car. Would you get cheese enchiladas?
Cheese enchiladas, gotta go with the classic.
How is it?
Tasty.
This seems so weird to be doing this in the car, filming eating in the car, but nobody ever accused me of being too fancy. No. Just kind of has a nice little cheesy, the cheese has a little bit of a tang to it, and the enchilada sauce is kind of sweet, no really spice at all, and kind of a thicker corn tortilla. Little cheese enchilada is all I got. How are the beans and rice over there?
Oh, well, you just eat rice is good, Spanish rice. Beans are covered with cheese.
So if you find yourself in Tonopah, Nevada, living out of your car, like it looks like we're doing, hit up the Marquis for some Mexican food. I really enjoyed our visit to Tonopah. The West is dotted with these little towns that were once booming and now simply just exist. It is a tiny little town with a lot of fascinating history and multiple reasons to consider it a deadly destination. Thank you for joining me today on Dining with Death, Deadly Destinations. I sure hope you're well. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time on Dining with Death. Bye.